What time is it? It's time for another Every Other Wednesday.
What time is it? Shall we get going, gentlemen?
I think we should.
We should.
So,
People will continue to join us. Richard.
Yeah. Why don't we begin? Let us begin.
What time is it? It's time for another Every Other Wednesday.
Oh, that never gets old. Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Every Other Wednesday. It just happens to be Wednesday, January 26th. It is official Australia Day today, Dental Drill Appreciation Day, Peanut Brittle Day, and Library Shelfie Day, which we've already kind of covered. So thanks for your comments in the chat box. My name is Michael Kerr. I have the honor of coming to you from beautiful, spectacular Canmore, Alberta in the Canadian Rockies. I'm going to be the cat herder today. We will get to our incredibly fabulous special guest, Mike Easton, in a moment, but let's introduce the other members of the culture gang here. Richard.
Hi, I'm Richard Haddon, and I'm an author and speaker and pretty much known for the Contented Cows books. And I live in Jacksonville, Florida, where today it is colder than it should be.
So what? It's like 70 Fahrenheit?
No, we wish.
Yeah, still mid-50s, that doesn't count. Oh, go ahead. You want to introduce me?
No, who the heck are you?
Jeez, Louise. My name is Sanjay Nath. I'm coming to you from Oakville, Ontario, just outside of Toronto. I am a speaker and author specializing in leadership and performance.
Excellent. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. And a special thank you to our special guest this week, Mr. Mike Easton. I'm going to ask you in a moment to introduce yourself, Mike. But Mike and I met. When did we meet, Mike? Do you remember when that was?
Like many years ago.
10 years ago at a conference, I believe, and you were speaking about the topic of fun and humor in the workplace. And I was like, oh my God, it's so cool to have a CEO talk about that topic. I was so thrilled to meet you. I think it was a lean conference, I believe.
Yeah, lean manufacturing conference.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. And then we've connected over the years, and I'm happy to say that Mike was generous enough to give me my cover testimonial quote on the Humor Advantage book. And in fact, I'm going to share my screen. This is so cool. I just remembered this, Mike. That we have some cool photos of you and I together. Do you remember that? That was.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's in Winnipeg.
Which one is? I recognize Mike Easton. Which one is you? Which one on the right is you?
Right.
It's the gorilla in between us, which I think Mike will get to, and then this photo as well. Because you and I did a CBC radio interview together.
Right, we have some history, me and you.
We do. I know.
We don't see the radio interview.
What do you mean?
By the way, as you're pulling that up, I wanted to ask the audience because we haven't made this public, but we decided that there's only enough that this video cast is only big enough for one mic. So we'll be voting one mic off the show at the end of the episode. So no pressure, Easton, no pressure, Kerr.
I got to work hard.
Yeah.
I think I'm out. Hey, so Mike, so thank you so much for being here. So why don't you introduce yourself to the folks? Tell us what you do. Tell us where you live. Anything you want to share about your professional or personal background.
Sure. So I guess I'm Mike Easton. I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and it's currently Winterpeg, Manitoba, because it's freaking cold. But I'm currently right now actually in Grand Cayman and enjoying some sun here. And just as a business side, I own a company called Argus Industries, and I've been owning it for maybe 14 years. And it was a business that my dad bought in like 1978, and I kind of came into it in the 2000s and took it over. And from that kind of spun and kind of found my place in a manufacturing world. So since then, bought a company called Argus Metals, which is CNC metals and robotic welding. And I guess Argus Industries is gaskets and rubber and foam and plastic and that kind of stuff, silicone, in every industry from high tech to low tech, aerospace, to agriculture. And then into another business I bought about 6 years ago called Terracom, which makes cabs for like tractors and mining equipment and stuff. And it would be like the full cab with the glass and the vacuum formed plastic roof and the air conditioning and the Bluetooth radio, and a little bit of like a nice automotive fit and finish that goes on tractors and cabs that we sell kind of around the planet. And then recently, a fun little thing for the Canadian folks is there's a spin studio that my wife and I went to, and there's opportunity to buy in a partnership, and they have a few spin studios across Canada and Saskatchewan and Manitoba. And really what grabbed us there was the culture. And so we were so enamored by this super intentional culture that we felt we needed to be a part of it, because we, one, could feed off of it too, but could feed to it and make this thing kind of grow and maybe be like the spin studio, like across Canada, the Peloton or Soul Cycle across Canada. So that's kind of a nice new thing going on, but definitely culture forward as an organization.
Very cool. Yeah, you've always got a lot going on, it seems to be, and so much focus on culture. So how many employees, Mike, do you like? How many in Argus do you have?
Probably like 100-ish in Argus and 40, 50-ish in Terracom, and we host probably at the 30. Well, no, it's Winnipeg, so I don't know. They're all good small, medium-sized businesses, I'd say.
Yeah. And do you still manufacture that one particular item with the great name?
You know what? We have a couple interesting products we make. One is called a Snappy Hooker, and it is a rubber tarp strap that has been manufactured. I'm going to say it's going on 30, 40 years. We've only owned it for maybe 15, 20, but it is an iconic rubber tarp strap that has been around for a long time. But yeah, Snappy Hookers. And we also sell rubber assault rifles that look like a total assault rifle, but it's rubber for like parades, training, that kind of stuff. So lots of time you introduce and you say, hey, like this guy makes guns and sells hookers, snappy hookers. So I get some off color. And we also do another thing, a product called, it's a grain cleaning ball, but it's a rubber ball. So this guy's got balls, sells guns and hookers. So, the product lines are sketchy, but yet they are legitimate industrial products.
Very cool. Very cool. So the reason I wanted to connect with you when you and I first met, and why I've followed you all these years and we've connected, is because you clearly are somebody who is really, really focused on workplace culture, who's intentional about your workplace culture. So just to start off the conversation, and Sanjay, Richard, feel free to dive in as we go here. Where did that intentional focus on culture come from? Why do you think it's important? Why did you decide that it really matters to really, really be intentional about culture?
So I guess, growing up, having a father that owned a manufacturing company, and I'd work there for summers, but, I'd be the guy running like a machine that makes like plastic washers that go in grain bins, and, you're shipping a few million a month. So you just see this thing going, and you're just making washers. And then you start to talk to some of the other people that are around you that maybe don't have an education and maybe are kind of forced to be in this type of role. And as you grow up doing this, and I also had a few other jobs in like construction and demolition. So you're working with more people that maybe don't have the highest education, but at the same rate, when you get to know them as people, they still have hopes, they still have dreams, they still want to, have the house and the vacation and, and all this kind of stuff. And then as I started to go up through the chain, and then I'd be in like leadership meetings and different things, you would hear the leaders talk poorly of those people, thinking that they're literally like a pawn in a game. And that made me mad, and it made me be like, they're humans. They have hopes and dreams, just like you have hopes and dreams. Doesn't matter what your title is or your wage is, they're people. And so from that, it fostered kind of something that internally I probably didn't know until I was into a position of higher authority inside Argus as maybe more of the VP and running the production side, and just started elevating people into people and making everybody very important, and giving everybody not just their 5 minutes of fame, but just the ultimate respect that every person's due. Doesn't matter what your title is, or even like some of the, we work in a manufacturing where in Winnipeg, there's a lot of ethnicity in all those type of things. And sometimes within ethnicities, just because their English language isn't perfectly easy to listen to or understand or communicate to, sometimes people think they're not as intelligent. And never let someone's accent determine their level of intelligence. And so for me, that is something that is, we really try to find intelligent people. I don't care how good or bad your English language is, because like for me, I can speak English and I'm very bad at Tagalog, but yet people who speak Tagalog are really good at English, and yet they don't get the same credit. And so for me, it's one of those things that you just have to really respect people for being people. And that was kind of one of the influences definitely to help me say, okay, when we're building a culture in these organizations, one, push the work to people that can do it and give the authority to people who can do it. But inside the environment, we're very intentional about making everything positive and respectful. You'll see that in all of our literature and our little meeting stuff. And so it's very important. And I always say, if you are in an environment where people are positive and respectful, you can get anything done. And so that's really one of our little mantras that we talk about. So that's probably more of the question that you're looking for.
Yeah, well said, Mike. That's what has helped you be so successful, right? And what helped you stand out, especially I think in that industry. And I love that you touched on the different languages. I really love that quote that you see online sometimes, that don't ever laugh at somebody because of their accent or their poor English in our case. That shows that they've learned another language.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a question for you, Mike, in terms of the businesses that you've talked about, initially you started off, it seemed like you had a manufacturing presence. And that's business 101, is you can't diversify too much. You have to have your core competencies and all that fun stuff. But then all of a sudden you're doing Peloton-esque biking. And I'm assuming somehow this makes sense in your head, because you might be buying on culture or organization or whatever it is. So I want you to comment on that. And the other question I had too, it's kind of related, is do you start off with an organization having a strong culture and build it from there? Or do you go and potentially look for turnarounds, going, okay, their culture stinks, but I know if we brought that up, it would increase profitability, it would increase employee morale, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I'll start on the second one because it's easier. But I would say, looking at even Argus as a company my father owned, and then I got involved in, whenever that was, 2009 or 1997 is when I first got involved full time, and then 2009 is when I purchased it. So when I purchased it in 2009, I was in charge of the manufacturing side of the organization, and in that manufacturing side, there was this strong culture, and it was electric, like it was amazing. And then the other side of the business, is cancerous. There's lots of areas where people just didn't want to talk to one another and was backstabbing and that kind of stuff. So when I moved in to the presidency of and ownership of Argus, I started to use what I did in the back shop and allow everybody else to come into that culture. And then from that, it made the whole organization kind of blow up and become this kind of incredible place of culture. And then from that, we bought the machine shop, and they had a very, again, hard dictatorship style culture. We went in, and then again, for us, what I found was the strength in our organization was the ability to come in and put in processes, put in systems, and put this culture in of just ultimate respect and positivity and empathetic leadership, supportive leadership. So we have these kind of principles that we use that you can just kind of go and inject into an organization, and in no time people start to come around and say, like, I never worked for any place like this. And then this last one, Terracom, it's actually called another company name, and when we went into it, the culture was so cancerous and poisonous, we actually changed the name, rebranded it, and came in and we started saying our thing, and the employees were like, yeah, we'll believe it when we see it. This is, people don't talk like this, people don't act like this. And we started just sharing information and pulling them in at different levels and pushing work down and giving respect to people who actually could do the work, instead of treat them like little robots or just give them what they need or make them always come to you to say, hey, what should I do? And we don't want yes people. We want people to, use their brains and use their mind and feel like they came to work to actually do what they were put on the planet to do. And I don't care what you're doing, but if you're coming to work and influencing people and feeling respected, that's just it's a good place to hang out for 8 hours of the day.
Okay,
So,
Mike, I'm
in the chat box. Just
go ahead.
Follow up from Laura Lee. She said, "Did you have strong objectors to the culture change, and you were implementing, and how did you deal with that?"
Yeah, 100%. A lot of guys. Some of the things we did in organization kind of got rid of management, and it's just leaders and more self-led teams because the culture was so strong. And in my opinion, the more definitive the culture got, the more black and whites to, we have kind of a fun, positive, intelligent type of environment that we're running with very intelligent people. And the people that kind of didn't fit into that culture of the fun side, and they're more of the serious, and I want a management title. I worked my life for this title, and now I'm just a leader. I'm no longer like the whatever manager. That defined people very quickly. And then those people either self-selected out, or just eventually we just felt there's such a breach that we just had to, let people go. And even when we let people go because of our culture, lots of times we would just pay them to go find a job. And we say, just go job hunt. And because nobody likes to hire someone who got fired or laid off. So it's always easier to get a job when you have a job. So we would always say, we're just going to tell everybody you're still working here. And even one of the person I actually helped get them a job, I actually got them an interview and a job, and they actually moved on, and they're actually super successful and doing awesome there. And it was a transition, right? And so we're helping transition people. And it's not that we don't want you part of our culture. It's just we're doing you a favor by putting you in a culture that you're actually going to thrive in, instead of a culture that's going to make you frustrated. So we definitely had opposition. And I think for me, the biggest part is being the owner. That was kind of the most important part of it, I guess, is growing up a little bit. My dad did have that 1970s kind of dictator type of thing, is do what I say, know what I do. And so for me, when I came into the role, I was kind of wearing two hats. So I'd go to work with, my big boy pants, and I'd be telling people what to do. And then I'd come home and I'd forget that I should take these off. And I come to my wife and saying, hey, do this and do that. And, hey, you're not at work, you can't talk. So it's like, wait a minute, this is not me. So at this point, I said, you know what, if I'm going to be a leader, I'm going to be me. I want to be me at home. I want to be me at work. So then I just started to create and be a leader and create this environment around who I am. And one of the things that I kind of been philosophizing, I guess, to create is that I want all my companies to be filled with leaders that have the same heart as me and a different mind. So
that's brilliant.
Right. And so I don't want a bunch of yes people, but I also don't want a bunch of people that think like me, even if it's a good way of thinking. I want people with the same heart and being connected with me on a heart level, because, sometimes, we talk about, the 4-letter words that you shouldn't say in a business, and love is one of them. And it's amazing how, care and love, to me, like, you can't lead a healthy organization without care and love. And as a CEO into my one-to-one meetings with some of my VPs and my leaders, and a lot of these kind of executive high-level, strategic meetings, I'm going to say lots of times I get teary-eyed, or people in the meeting get connected, and you get a little bit of, that next level emotional connection. And to me, that's sometimes where the magic happens, is when you have the transparency of really what the heart is feeling and saying, and what we want to do as a team. And when those all connect, like, you can't stop that. You can't stop that at all. That is an amazing environment to work in.
What a great attitude. I love that. The same heart but different mind. That is just brilliant. That is brilliant. That's a bumper sticker right there, folks.
There you go. By the way, the comment came from Laura. It said, helping employees find another job seems like a very strong message to the remaining employees. It says, we're here to take care of you. And that's, like you said, that's love, trust, care, whatever language you want to use.
Yeah. We still respect you as a person. We just might not want you working in our organization anymore.
Exactly.
And that doesn't mean you have like the cheese touch, and now we can't talk to you, and we need like Joe from security to escort you out. That's cool. Like, yesterday I would have lunch with you, and today, because I made a decision, now we don't talk to you, and I get escorted out like you have COVID. And so it is not, So that's not how we operate. Sometimes you have to make those tough decisions, and the exit strategy has to go for lots of business reasons. It's still a business, and you still have to do some business things, which means, letting people go and that kind of stuff. And it's always a difficult process, but it's a part of the world of business. And so nothing personal. We still like you guys. It's just, you just can't work here anymore. And it's, it is part of life.
So Mike, I want to go back to when you were saying that you had, you came into the company, and then you really tried to change the culture. And what I'm trying to find out is, and I know you said that you had some changes in management and changes in personnel and so forth, but did you find that for the most part, to change the culture, you had to change who the people were, or did you actually change to different people? In other words, did you find it not necessarily easy, but at least doable to change the culture with, by and large, the same people in the organization? Or did you find that in order to do that, you really had to replace a substantial number of people with new people, with different people who might be able to work in that culture better?
So I guess part of your question, what I would say is that if I was trying to create a culture of evil and I'm going to just fill my pockets full of money, I would say that would be a trigger point for a lot of people with mass exodus or lots of argumenting and fighting. But I find when I give my conference speeches and I give my talk about, you know, who I am and how we run our company, and you have a lineup of people trying to give you a resume at the end of the talk.
Yeah,
it's like
sure.
I'm telling people I'm going to build Disneyland and you guys get to stay here and work there. And so it was a lot of people saying, wow, this is super refreshing. I've never worked for a company like this before. So for me, it came down to the point of allowing me and some of the VPs to have kind of that ability to self-select, of saying, you know, for these people that don't meet up with the culture we're going, and you can see they're fighting against it or creating opposition inside or being kind of the covert, you know, blowing things up, saying, hey, well, these guys are crazy, they don't know what they're doing, let's gonna blow this up, I'm gonna blow this up. And you're like, okay, no, you either got to get in or get out. And so to me, it was a lot of people just kind of warmed right up to the whole process and saying, this is, I'm on board, I'm here,
Okay.
and wherever we're gonna go, we're gonna go. So I was doing good things. So usually when you do good things, people definitely want to be a part of it. Yeah. And you know, everyone wants to be part of a winning team, right? So right away we started having big wins and different things going on. And it's again, and it's interesting because one of the main themes of my culture is having fun. And so, you know, we kept calling it, like some of my talks were called, you know, serious fun. And so the whole serious fun element was trying to have, for me, whenever you take a team of people through an experience, they're different on the other side. You can't, you know, working every day together is you're not doing anything to kind of develop your relationship. That's a you know, a slow boat from China type of relationship. But if you go and put a bunch of people on teams and then challenge them on some kind of fun you know, way to get through like games or examples, at the other end, they're tighter. The bonds are kind of chemically flashed together. And so for me, we always try to create little experiences to make people grow as a team. So we do things called like Argus X Games and different types of you know, cook-off challenges because we like our food. So we'll do like a chili cook-off, and everybody comes in with their chili and do some different games. But it's always bringing people together outside of work and making them challenge each other and work together. So we've had lots of great stories where brothers never talked for 20 years in their family and they were working in the same organization. They got put on the same team randomly for one of the X Games. And at the end of that day, they went into the backyard of the business in the fence and just started chit-chatting, and they actually became brothers again after being put on the same team and putting through a day of challenges, of games through, and they already worked for 5 years in the same organization, like inside Argus together. Wow. So it's like little things like that to me, like you can't, you know, that's how walls get broken down, using, you know, fun little examples of putting, you know, extreme games, but they weren't too extreme, but games together. And you find that they might have worked together, but all they're doing is finding workarounds to have other people go talk to their brother for them and tell me what he says, because I need his product as, you know, he's the supply chain manager or whatever he happened to be. But anyway, so that's kind of some of the things we do to kind of break down the walls and make people kind of come together inside a culture.
Yeah. So Mike, I know what you do with the X Games there, but can you elaborate that? And I know you put a huge focus too on creating this kind of one team mentality, right? Where people don't think of themselves as the front office,
this
the back
department,
office,
that
guys,
department.
Yeah, the blue collar, white collar. So can you talk about the X Games, what that is exactly, and other ways that you kind of help build that one team?
Sure. One of the things, so the word tribe kind of came out of a Seth Godin book. If you guys read his book many years ago called Tribes, and so we were calling ourselves a family, like the Argus family, and it was light and fluffy and it was nice. But I don't know, after the Tribes book floated around the company, everybody just said, you know, we were a tribe, and just kind of had this flag thing saying that's who we are. We're deeper than a family, and so this tribe thing started to come, and then from that we started to just kind of figure out different ways to play as a tribe. And so we created this thing called X Games. And inside the X Games, we take products that we make inside the business and then create a challenge around it. So talk about the snappy hookers, it's a rubber tarp strap with 2 metal S hooks on the end. That's a bungee cord type of thing. So we make those, we make like 1 million a year of these things. And so some of the challenges, we're using these giant ladders and trying to make the longest kind of chain of monkeys of these tarp straps. And then whoever had the longest one won the challenge, or you would just use the metal S hooks at the end because it was a little better. And you try to get these things going, you'd have like 50 pounds of metal S hooks up a ladder. Or we have some of these cutting machines to cut out gaskets with the vibrating knife. And so you'd cut a big foam puzzle, like a 8-foot by 4-foot puzzle out of and so your team would have to assemble the puzzle out in the parking lot. We had some bins for moving those snappy hookers. So we had some races where the bin had to go around a thing.
And
so
and Mike, sorry to interrupt. How many people typically die at these events?
We've only had one, it hasn't been proven, but one heart attack from one of the events from here was unfortunate. But it was probably a good thing because it did save the guy's life at the time. But
I was just joking. It just sounded very dangerous.
I was just like, it's a true fact. But actually, we were written up once in the New York Times, and they made that little fact in there. I thought they thought that was more interesting than some of the other things I said.
Wow. They would, yeah.
But, yeah.
So you say tribe, and when you say tribe, you mean the entire organization is a tribe, not this tribe and that tribe and that tribe within the organization, right?
Yeah, well, with the tribe thing, we say three tribes, one vibe, and that's kind of like our organizational thing, right? So right, so you have 3 businesses, but it's the same culture in all 3 businesses, and the VPs overlook all 3 manufacturing companies. So it's kind of to me that's how we kind of try to keep everything standardized, and that all of our culture statements are the same. Our mission statements are different, but our culture statements are the same. A little bit of the vision statements are the same. And then the other thing I guess I'll talk about is that we have culture statements that are based on the person's behavior and kind of permission to behave as an employee. But what we saw as VPs in the organization, that lots of organizations, they tell their people to behave a certain way, but as a corporation, you can do whatever you want. You can fire people, you can do whatever, you can whatever. And so how do you say, I'm going to behave this way in this culture and be this way? And then these guys are rogue and they can do whatever they want. So we created a corporate culture that kind of starts with, protect the positive and respectful tribal culture, and, make business easy to do business internally, externally, and a few things where it's all about, giving the customer what they want, when they want it, and then growing the tribe, with smarter education. So you get this stuff where the corporation is promising this stuff to protect, but also to ensure proper behavior as the corporation, so that when you look at the corporate culture versus the personal culture, the community culture, perhaps, they line up, and where they're both going. So that's really kind of the importance to me, is having 2 cultures. And for us, we had a culture statement 20-something years ago when culture statements weren't even something to have. And I think I might even say I'm a bit of a pioneer start in these kind of things where we didn't even have a really good vision statement or mission statement, but yet our culture statement was amazing. So it really, to me, and that's that other statement that culture eats or operational excellence for breakfast, lunch, and everything. But yeah, culture to me is get that going, and then you guys can move mountains if everybody's pulling the rope the same way.
From an onboarding perspective, so let's just say you've been there for a while, people are buying into the culture, you have that shift, you're growing at the rate and the direction in which you want. When you bring on 2 new team members, what kind of orientation or expectations, or do they have to sign away blood and urine, or what? Like, how do you get them to buy in? How much of it is done by you in terms of the onboarding processes versus the pure mentality?
Sure. Yeah, no blood or microchips. No, not yet. But you walk in our front door of Argus, and we have a hallway of really all of these kind of philosophies and ideas that I've shared with you. So the onboarding could be a walk down the hallway, depending on where and how this person's organizing. And I also, lots of times before COVID, of course, COVID shut down. I'm going to say COVID, this is a side note. COVID really trying to start a culture and develop a culture like we do, which is so much face-to-face
Being
contact
together,
and team games, and like to have a room of 8 people is fantastic. And then COVID, you're like, you can't do anything, right? And so it's very difficult to transfer and get the culture on fire. And so it has been painful the last couple of years to not do what we have done, but we've tried every opportunity we have. But anyways, back on the topic is saying that I would even go put on little culture talks of like 20 minutes or 30 minutes and do the little bit of history of Argus, the culture, what we how we want to do things, and just also make myself completely open and transparent to anybody in the organization. Like I have lots of people that come to my office that are just like, production guys that are, punching out some gaskets, and they come ask me what video game I'm playing, or even go to movies with some of the guys, and they're like, hey, the new Spider-Man's coming, you gonna come to a movie? I'm like, sure. So like 3 of us will go to a movie. And so it's like, and I do something called, well, I used to lunch with the president, haven't done that for a while because of COVID, but anybody in the organization, I'd put a sign-up sheet, and then whoever could fit in my car, usually 3 or 4 people, you sign up for the day that I would put available, and then they would pick the restaurant in the city that they would want to go to. So I would get 3 or 4 people and the restaurant we're going to, and I would just give them at least once a month throughout the year. So again, how is that, like, as an organization? Right. The president is accessible. Yeah. You can talk to me about anything, preferably movies and video games, apparently. But I am excited to talk about that stuff. And if you want to talk about business and strategy and your career path, or lots of different things, I'm open. There's no kind of hierarchy of, oh, it's the president, we can't talk to him. It's lots of times we're in business meetings talking about business stuff with all the VPs and leaders, and someone open the door and be like, hey, Mike, do you want blah, blah, blah? And it's very, like I said, accessible, yet I always say very intelligent, very professional people. I get some extremely intelligent people that have done some crazy things around the planet working for me, which I am super blessed to have them part of the tribe, part of the company. So it's one of the things that again, we've built this organization, not just with, like, sometimes people say, oh, you're just having fun and games all the time, and it's not really, intelligent stuff. Like the product that we make, like we just connected with Boeing. We passed all the Boeing, aerospace requirements. It took, maybe 20 years of working with Boeing because there's so many different things and changing in leadership there. But we finally got approved this year, but we've been doing stuff in aerospace for probably 20 years. And we have lots of product flying around the planet, and we have stuff in submarines, and we have stuff in, armored personnel carriers. We have stuff in electronics, and again, all over the place. So we got really, we have some very intelligent people working for us with some pretty high-tech products, but yet we still have, like I said, serious fun around the organization.
So Mike, on that note, the time is going so ridiculously fast.
And so it always does.
It always does. In our remaining time here, would love for you to share a few more ideas, specific ideas on, I know you have a huge emphasis on communication too. So you do some fun things in your meetings, and any other ways that you had fun. We have to get to the gorilla, why we had a photo with the gorilla.
All right. So gorilla, again, COVID killed the gorilla.
Yeah, unfortunate
too. That thing has not been out for a couple of years. So we have a gorilla costume, and one of the things that I did even before I was owner is at Christmas time we would do a Christmas party, and just being a creative guy, I would always try to do little skits and stuff, and then make it into a movie. And part of the little movie thing, back when video cameras, they weren't on every phone, like this is, again, starting, I've been 20 years ago for sure. You'd hide a video camera inside a box in the warehouse, and then I'd get one of my guys to dress up in a gorilla costume, go in a box, and then we'd lead someone from customer service or sales or production through the warehouse and say, hey, this product came back. Can you just have a look at it? Because I think you know more about it than I do. And they lean in and they go to open the box, and a gorilla jumps out at them, and you get it on the tape, and everybody kind of laughs. So then you'd lead another one and another one. So it'd be a segment inside the Christmas party video, which the video would be about 30 minutes, 40 minutes of all little skits, and I'd make people dance to a song. And it was always about trying to give every employee kind of 5 minutes of fame and have them up on the screen during a Christmas party with everyone laughing and kind of feeling like part of a bigger community. And so the whole thing with the gorilla costume, and why I kind of kept going and going, is that when you're making the video, the people that are in on it is kind of like off in the corner of the warehouse. We're all kind of hanging off each other, and you're like kind of trying to not laugh, and it's breaking down the walls because this is like a day of work. You're working right now, and you just actually got pulled off your job of making gaskets or shipping something or selling something. And now you're in the warehouse with, you know, I was at the time the VP of manufacturing and another salesperson and a bunch of other people. And we're all hard in the corner waiting for people to come in, and you're just crying, laughing, and everyone's like high-fiving one another. And then when person gets scared, so you created this whole environment that you lived in, and it was like broken down walls, and you feel like you're connected to these people on no other level that you could get connected with people. And then fast forward a month and a half when the video is done, and then it's Christmas time, and then you're all in Christmas party, and your spouses are there, and your peers are all there now, and then you're watching it again, and then you have the reliving of all those emotions and all those things coming back to you. So just doing the gorilla thing with the jump scares and that kind of stuff, it is amazing how the community of that alone, like I said, even that made it into that New York Times article. So this is one of those things that, you know, it's not so much the actual, you know, gorilla scare. That's always funny because sometimes when it's like a sweet little lady in you know, the front office, and then they drop some F-bomb because the gorilla jumps out at them, and you're like, I've never heard you swear in my whole life, and now you're just like, you're just losing it. And so anyways, those are the things that really grab everybody and like pull you into a certain pinpoint, but makes you feel united as one kind of, again, so much different vibes going on, or so many different tribes and 200 different groups, but yet when these things, it's just one vibe. It just brings people to a single point that we're all united and here to have a good time, and don't take yourself too seriously. We do have to do serious work, but don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah, love that, love that. And what about your meetings, right? You do some interesting things for how you conduct your meetings.
Yeah, definitely. So you know, everybody has meetings, and I guess, you know, if you've seen the John Cleese little video thing of death by meetings, you know, it's one of those things that when you have a meeting, it's so important not to have a meeting for the sake of having a meeting, and not to be in a meeting if you feel you're not actually adding value or content to the meeting. So in all of our boardrooms, we have a little board, kind of like a I would say acronym. So we call magic meetings. So the magic stands for something. So M is making tomorrow better than today. The A is accountability. So you're in this meeting to be accountable to our suppliers, to our customers, and to our tribe. G is Gamba. So this is a Japanese word saying get up and go to where the truth is. So we would say go Gamba. So if you're in a meeting and you've talked about something and you've been circular and you're like, we just talked about this, we didn't get anywhere. We say, you know what, we've talked about this 15 minutes, go Gamba. Let's get up and go where the truth is. Is this a product being made poorly in the back shop? Is this either did a tractor fail in a field in the province over? Do we have to go for like a 5-hour drive? Like how do we go to get to the truth? So that's, again, it's just in these meetings, you want to be, again, making tomorrow end of the day, I should have said that's about continuous improvement, right? Making everything always, you know, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? So sometimes you're in these meetings, there's big problems and you can't solve them in one meeting, but just know that it's just part of the process. You got to keep hitting it over and over again. So it's a continuous improvement. So then the I on magic is what I say is the collective intelligence. So you want to use the collective intelligence and imagination of everybody, because that is how you get innovation. So we want to be innovative inside these meetings. And then the last one, the C, is being aware of your content, of what you're doing in the meeting. So the other ones are all kind of good, but then the last one is saying, like, if you're in the meeting, be aware of the content you're providing. If you're not speaking, if no one spoke to you and you're not even taking a note, just ask yourself, maybe I didn't need to be a part of this meeting, and be respectful of the point of maybe I could have been, you know, doing something different than being in this meeting. But at the same rate, if you're in the meeting and you have something to say, I don't care who you are, I want you to say it. I want you to have a voice and make sure that your ideas are heard. And sometimes from the meekest voice comes the most powerful ideas. And yet it just takes someone to be softly spoken to for that idea to come out. It doesn't always take the boisterous person that likes hearing their voice to be always the guy coming up with the ideas, because that usually it doesn't come out that way. So, but so inside our meetings are called magic meetings. And I guess the preamble to that is when you come into one of our meetings, I don't care about your title. I want you to make sure you don't bring your ego in, take your ego out back, shoot it, and then come back into our meeting again. And then when you're in this meeting, with no title and no ego, we throw you up 1,000 feet in the air, and then you're going to look down on the building as a tiny little dot, and you're going to look at that dot, and there's going to be a little problem at that dot. And that is why we are in this meeting, is to solve or discuss that problem. And so when we're together, I don't care about your title, I don't care about who you are or what you're doing, how can we work together to solve that problem? So when you go into a magic meeting, you have a few preambles that that kind of go and stipulate, to me, this kind of fresh breath of a meeting. And so when you're in there, you're actually sharing stuff that's actually valuable, and you feel like you are being valued by being part of this meeting.
So it sounds like, and this is a common topic for us, it sounds like you're creating psychological safety for everyone, right?
Yeah,
sure.
And speaking of value, there's a comment here. It says, I would almost be tempted to move to Winnipeg to work for such an amazing environment. And then someone else piped in with, I agree.
I agree.
So,
you know, Mike, it sounds to me, it reminds me, a number of years ago, I was at a company. It was in their headquarters, and the person I was talking to was so proud to show me their mission statement and vision statement and all this wonderful stuff. It was emblazoned on these plaques on the wall, and some of it was engraved in glass. And then as I got to know the company and got just talking with people who work there, they said, that stuff's just engraved in the glass. It doesn't actually exist here. It's just what they put on there. Sounds to me like you have taken those things off the wall and brought them down in among your tribe, where what you espouse is actually what people experience. And that's what I see as so different about your organization from so many that we see.
So that's exactly what I was saying earlier about me going to work and putting on the big boy pants and being Mr. Finger Pointer versus just being me. And so when it's me, and then these ideas and these philosophies, they come out of who I am. And so I can't stop being who I am. So when I walk around Argus and when I have meetings, it's just me. And so I've aligned all the leaders, to have the same heart. We've found people that think differently, but we have the same heart. And it's amazing how we've just kind of come together. And when we have some of these meetings, like I said, it's you can't even put your finger on the air that you're living in, because it's pretty special in my opinion. And a few times we've had a lot of great years where we have some big wins and some neat things. And everyone in my group is so excited to kind of keep going. And I'm like, you guys, we're so excited to keep going, but just pause for 1 second and celebrate who we are, what we've done, where we've come from, and where we're going. But just pause for this moment in time, because everyone's so excited to kind of keep going the next thing, because there's so much motivation and so much excitement about all this. So it is, yeah.
So inspiring. I've gotten goosebumps here today, I think.
Yeah.
So, and Mike, we have to wrap things up now, but I want to, I don't know if I have the mantra right, but I remember hearing from you years ago, you talked about kind of a guiding mantra that I always appreciated. That was something around the idea of how work is hard enough as it is without making it any harder, right?
Oh, is Mike the one who said that? I've heard you say that before, Mike.
Yeah.
By the way, he doesn't normally credit you when he says that, but since you're here now, he's credited.
I do too.
Yeah, exactly. Finally.
And by the way, Mr. Eaton, I noticed that you skillfully didn't answer my question of how your all businesses are related. So that just means we'll have to bring you back on the show. To answer that question.
Definitely culture. I'd say the manufacturing side is kind of how I'm wired. And one thing that maybe, I do have a minute, but one thing, it's kind of the supportive leadership side, is that lots of people, there's a triangle and the president's at the top and the crap flows downhill. So we inverted it at Argus, and me and Jeff Thomas, my VP of manufacturing, me and him were talking many years ago, and just said I just said, I didn't sit well being on top. I like being the bottom. And then we look at that, it's a supportive leadership style. And that really is kind of the way that we run the businesses. So for me, it's just going into a different business that has value, that I want to put that leadership kind of principle in and raise them up. So in manufacturing, you find that that's just how I think. So manufacturing is an obvious choice. The last spin studio was more of a personal choice, being, I just turned 50. So at a certain point, I'm changing some of the perspectives, but it's still a viable business. Good sales. Good. Profit structure. It's a real business, and so it's just interesting to dabble in something that still has the core roots of an amazing culture, but yet a just different business philosophy. So for me, I'm more of a backseat person in that business, while I'm more front in the manufacturing side.
Very cool. Well, we do have to wrap things up,
We
folks. So
do.
Mike, can everybody in the chat box please show some love for our amazing and so inspiring guest, Mr. Mike Easton. Thank you so much
Absolutely.
for joining us. Somebody made the comment, please bring Mike back. They did say keep the old Mike too.
Yeah, but they were
bring
just
the
being
new Mike.
polite. They
That
were
was
just being
nice.
polite.
I'm glad we're not
I wasn't
voting on
sure.
Mike's because I feel
Right,
like I
yeah.
would lose that vote today. So Mike, thank you so much for sharing your experience, your wisdom, your
Yes, this
incredible
was
energy.
amazing, Mike. Yeah. Right.
Just brilliant. And it touches on so much of what we espouse here and believe in when it comes to building rocking, inspiring cultures. So thank you for that. Thank you everyone for joining us. I
Yes.
want to remind everybody that, you can bring the Culture Club into your organization. We can interview folks on your team. We can bring in special guests like we did today with Mike to present to your organization. So reach out if you want to look into that. If you have suggestions for topics, suggestions for guest speakers, do let us know. And we will see you in 2 weeks, which is when, gentlemen?
It is
February 9th.
10th.
February 9th.
February 9th.
The 10th or 9th, some.
I'll be saying, where is everybody? Where is everybody on February the 10th? Yeah. And we have a special guest.
Sanjay, Richard, any final words?
If we do
No,
vote
we
you
have a
off,
special guest and we'll be telling you who it is in the email. So thank you all for being here, everyone. Thank you, Mike Easton. Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you every other Wednesday.
Thank you, everyone.
cheers.
Thanks,
bye.
everybody. All
Be
the best.
well.